Mayor, do you want to start the meeting?
Yes, thank you, Pamela. And Ms. Whitmore, thank you for providing us the background information to prepare for tonight's conference and for the conversation that we'll be partaking in. The services of the League of Minnesota City are essential in good board governance and good operations of city functions. And so I'm personally looking forward to the conversation that we'll have. There were a number of council members that requested that we have this as soon as possible. So again, thank you to City Administrator Gramitz for making that happen as quickly as was possible on everybody's side. So I also want to thank everybody for accommodating me on the time change. I had some personal business I had to take care of today, and so I apologize for having to move the time, but I do thank you for that. With that, we'll do roll call. City Administrator Gramitz?
Yep. All right, Mayor Calvin?
Here.
Councilmember Plowman? Here. Councilmember Schwantes?
Here.
Councilmember Davis?
Here.
Councilmember Osmus?
Here.
Councilmember Fagerly? Councilmember Alvarado?
Here.
Councilmember Muskie?
Here.
Councilmember Nelson?
Here.
7 present from the council, and the mayor is present.
With that, I'll turn it over to Ms. Whitmore, the consultant from the League of Minnesota Cities, to walk us through the process. Ms. Whitmore.
Well, thank you, Mayor, and thank you to all the council members who joined us and the city administrator as well. You might notice that we have a couple of guests on. This is one of the only times that I have done this large of a group virtually with COVID. So I appreciate in advance your patience with technology, with the process. We will be doing a lot of activities, and that includes breakout rooms. And so as part of that, I've invited Dan Greenswag, who is the administrator of the trust, who enjoys going out, believe it or not, with me to different cities to be when he has the time. And so virtually it's very nice because he doesn't have to be in a car with me. I'm not sure if that's nice for him or for me. I'm not sure which. But anyway, Dan will be here to give some insight and also lead one of the breakout groups. Also with us is Laura Honick. And Laura Honick is in charge of operations of the trust, and she as well is going to help with one of the breakout groups and do some of the exercises with us. So those are the 2 other people, Mayor. You probably obviously didn't see them, so hope that's not too much of a surprise to you on the phone. We will be working in breakout groups for part of this, and they won't be a huge amount of the time, maybe 10 minutes each. So again, as that comes, I pre-assigned breakout groups. We'll see how that works. I might have to reassign it. So I, again, ask for your patience as we work through that, especially with the mayor on the phone. So we'll see how that works. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and share my screen so that you can see my PowerPoint. Let's see. All right. If you want to send me a chat and let me know if anybody can't see my screen. For those, I have a few of you on my screen right now. You're in a bar that's on my right-hand side of my screen. So can you give me a thumbs up if you can see my screen? That's the PowerPoint. Okay, I'm seeing thumbs up, so I'm going to assume that applies to everybody as I scroll through. So I want to thank everybody for coming tonight and giving this a try. And so as we move forward, please use your chat button or unmute yourself and let me know if something's happening with technology that I don't know about. So this slide is from Henry Ford, and I really like it. I recently wrote an article about leadership, especially in times of the pandemic, and I included this. And I think it's relevant to public entities and group decision making, because coming together, you all come together through an election. And the way that you run the election and the communication during the election is different than your communication as a group. So coming together is the beginning of all that. Staying together is where you stay together in those meetings. And so you have statutes and rules and policy that help define how to work in those meetings, but really working together is success. And so that's part of what we're here for tonight. So we're going to spend for those of you who like agendas, we're going to spend the first part of this session talking about some mind setting and then roles and responsibilities as they relate to your role as an elected official and then your relationship with the staff. And the last half of the session is going to be spent on communication and how to communicate as a group decision-making body as opposed to just how we communicate every day. So before I go to the next screen, does anybody have any questions about the agenda? As I scroll through, I see some no's, so I'm going to go ahead and move forward. So usually when I come on site, I like to do what I call climber cards. And I obviously don't have the ability to do that without being in person. So I took a few pictures of my climber cards, and I want to go around the group and have you pick one of these images and tell me why you picked it as far as representative of the city of Willmar. Does that make sense? So not to steal anybody's thunder, but for example, if you pick the fish, maybe you'd say something like, I really like this picture because it makes me feel like it's important for us as decision makers to be swimming in the right direction. Or I feel like I'm really proud of what we did this last year because I felt like this project was us working together in the right direction. So it's just a little icebreaker that we're going to do. I am going to start with how my screen looks. So Councilmember Davis, you're first up on my screen. Okay, we got to unmute you. Councilmember Davis, I can't, I tried to unmute you, but I couldn't, so can you do it?
Can you hear me?
Yes,
okay.
Thank you.
So I picked the latter because I feel like we're all climbing together towards the same objective for our city, which we want, everything to work well together. We want staff to work well with council and council to work well with staff. And if we all climb the ladder together, we'll get to the top and everything will be great.
All right, thank you. Anybody have any comments on Councilmember Davis? And by the way, I usually go by last names. Is that too formal? Are first names okay? And so are you all familiar with your chat box? Just chat to Laura Honick if you have any problem if I accidentally sometimes slip into a first name every once in a while. Okay, so next on my screen is Councilmember Osmus.
Okay, I kind of picked the one with all the different wheels, and just because I feel like we're all a cog in the mechanism of how the city operates. Some are on some committees, some are on others, some are connected to the chamber, some are more connected to downtown, some are connected with nonprofits, but all of the cogs work together to make the city run.
All right, thank you. Councilmember Miskey, you're next up.
I liked Osmus's. I was going to go with the same one. So just for creativity, since you brought them all, I'll pick the little waterfall there for the same reason. There's ebbs and flows all the time in what we do, and sometimes you can either go against the current or go with the current, and every once in a while there might be a waterfall in the way. We'll let the analogy stop there, but I thought that was very nice.
Good. Thank you. And Mayor, you're actually next on my list.
Well, you have to tell me my choices.
Oh, I guess that's true. See, there's my first faux pas doing this virtually. Well, we have some fish. We have a ladder. We have the yin and the yang. We have a turtle. I don't know if it's a painted or a snapping. We have some hearts, a sunshine, an elephant, hogs, the world, the planet, the all-seeing eye, some windows, a dartboard, rocks that are stacked, a light bulb, a waterfall, and a farm.
Well, I think I'll take the light bulb. I was thinking about doing the turtle, but there was too many analogies I could use there. So I'll do the light bulb because when we communicate properly, the light bulb gets turned on and we get to see other people's ideas.
Okay. That seems to have resonate with some of the readings that I sent to you. All right. Councilmember Alvarado, you're next.
I'm going to go with the hearts. I think there's an intense love for the city by each of the council members. And I think when we work together to accomplish something, there's a great deal of appreciation and love for the city. So there's my thing.
Perfect. Thank you. Mr. Grummins, you want to weigh in?
Weigh in. You're getting a little personal, aren't you?
I'm just trying to be folksy, but thank you for calling me out on that.
Well, in light of trying to pick one that I can relate to, I actually chose the barn.
Okay.
And specifically, it's what's inside the barn, not what goes out the back door. Okay. There's a diverse group of animals that usually live in the barn, which is much like a city to some extent. You got your cats and dogs and, pigeons and cows and pigs and calves and horses and they all have to kind of get along together. And, so I guess it's just showing a diversity under one roof and how they realistically have to all get along because they got no place else to go.
All right. Thank you. Councilmember Nelson. And you are muted too, if you're there. You go.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
I'm going to use the hearts also. And what struck me is there's 9 hearts there, and they're all different. And I think there's 9 of us that come to the table because we do care. As Councilmember Alvarado said, we're here because we care about the city. I also think the 9 hearts create a picture, and they are together. And I think that's what I like about it too, is that that's what our goal is, to bring 9 different opinions, 9 different lives, 9 different things together to do what's best for our city. So I'll quit with that.
Okay. Councilmember Schwantes.
Thank you. I was going to take the light bulb myself. I think this is a very innovative community, and that just reminds me of ideas. But since it hasn't been chosen, I'll take the sun. And the reason for that is I have a good friend who used to say the sun shines every day. It's just some days you have to rise a little higher above the clouds to see it. And in Willmar, the sun shines every day. Just have to work a little harder some days than others.
Yeah, well, that's good. Well, it was pretty rainy here, so I appreciate that it's sunny every day there. Councilmember Plowman, you are up next.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, I like everything that's been chosen so far. I'm going to choose the turtle, but I'm going to interpret it as a tortoise, not a snapping turtle, as maybe has been indicated before. And then the old analogy, slow and steady wins the race. I think what I've learned since becoming involved in government and whatnot is that, number one, nothing happens quickly. And number two, in order to be really effective, we got to have a long view because a short view doesn't get us very far with whatever we're trying to work on. So if we have a good long view and we can make determined, slow and steady progress in the right direction, I think that's a way that we can all come together and eventually win the race that we're trying to complete together. Thanks.
Well, so I think I made it all the way through. Did I miss anybody? All right, I don't see anybody shouting out or hear anybody. So what do you think about that that activity? Have you done anything like it before? No? I think it's a good activity. It really, if you can hear the message of all of you, it really creates some commonality. We're all here tonight to work together. You recognize that each of you are unique and have your own opinions, but working together, you can have that long view, have those good, bright ideas, have that, even when it's a little difficult, rise above some of the things that have happened that might have caused some conflict or distrust. So that's really what that is intended for. A lot of this I'll record, and I know the whole session is being recorded, but I will do a summary and send it out to you so you'll have a document in front of you just as a reminder of what you picked and what everybody had said. So with that, this is the agenda for tonight. So my role tonight, I'd like to clarify because people get a little freaked out sometimes when they see my title and they see mediation in there, because I do some of that for some cities, but really the collaboration piece is a bigger part of what I do for the league. So I go across the state and work with councils on anything that wants to make that the council wants to work on to be more efficient. A lot of times that's communication. A lot of times that's working beyond conflict, rebuilding trust, defining roles. So that's my role at the league. And so my role is to be here to help facilitate your discussion. It's not for me to have answers to whether you have committees or not have committees. But I can certainly be here to talk about other cities, best practices, but really to help you all talk to each other. And so that's the purpose of tonight, and which is why we do some of these breakout sessions and the activities. So I'm curious, I sent 3 articles. What do you think of the articles? So since I can't see everybody at once, anybody want to give me some opinions of the articles? Councilmember Osmus, what do you think?
I guess what I took from the articles was some of what I knew from previous trainings is that everybody has their own filters, or they come in with their own background of information, and you may or may not understand that why they have that strong of an opinion about something or a feeling about something, because you don't know their past and you don't know where they're coming from. So a lot of times communication can help that process. That getting to know somebody can help you understand maybe why there's conflict. But that's what I took out of the earlier chapter in the book.
Yeah, the chapter number 2. By the way, if you guys are all wondering, this is the book. You probably got an email or a text about it to come pick it up. I figured since I was sending you portions of the book, I would send the whole book for you to have as a resource if you ever wanted to read it. So those are yours. If you're not interested in reading it, I will not be offended, but I didn't want you to have parts of it and not be able to read the whole thing. So Anybody else want to weigh in? Anything particular that jumped out of any of the articles that you think is important?
Maybe, if I may.
Yes, please.
Okay. Yeah, just as a segue to Ms. Osmus's comment, I think that was perfectly right in line. Is that it's easy to forget in the business place and at city council and whatnot, but a lot of what we're doing it revolves around relationships. And even though we're dealing with protocols and procedures and governance and laws and ordinances and all that stuff, our relationships kind of dictate a lot of what we do and how we do it. And you know, like many of us know, in order for healthy relationships at home and around home and friendships and whatnot in our lives, we have to learn that our perspective is not the only perspective that matters. And that's what I got out of there also is just backing that up and building on that theory that just like all the other relationships that we have in our lives, in order for them to work correctly, it's the perspectives and the lenses that the others that we are working with, we got to be able to empathize, and when we're communicating with others, be able to pull out of our own views sometimes and try to maybe understand where somebody else is coming from. And when we're able to do that, it gives us much better ability, I think, to be a cohesive unit, because sometimes a lot of the procedural stuff, a lot of the protocol and the formality of everything, it gets us going down the track where we kind of forget that we're still a body of unique individuals, and those relationships and perspectives are what's super valuable in there. So thanks, Ms. Osmus, for your comment, because I definitely agree with that.
I will, if you're okay.
Yep.
Is it all right?
Sure.
Okay. The part about listening, I think that is an important one. But there's the two sides to listening, to know that you're going to be listened to, but also to being willing to listen. And I like the part where it talked about, trying to get to the understanding of where we're coming from and why we're having the conversation, so that it's easier to make a decision. So I appreciated the information on that listening, but both sides of listening.
Mm-hmm. So I don't want to cut any. Okay, Councilmember Alvarado. So I can't see everybody at once. So I am scrolling. So if I miss a hand up, don't say, "Oh, that facilitator, she always misses my hand." I think I saw Councilmember Alvarado's though, right?
Yeah. Thank you.
Okay.
You did see my hand.
Okay, good.
What I found was interesting was some of the writers' examples, and as far as where he went to feather out learning about communication. He went to Pixar. Pixar, they come out with these movies or these short clips, and they just tug at our heartstrings. And it's like, how did they know that? Well, it sounds like they try to collaborate. Not everybody gets the floor. They try to bring people in that aren't saying anything. So what are you thinking? They try to be inclusive, and they try to listen to somebody else's idea, or how is that going to work? Or they try to be a team, and nobody's right, nobody's wrong, but they're trying to be a team to find out what each has to offer, and they build off of each other's ideas. And Pixar, Disney, all that, it's just phenomenal how they can get to your emotions. So I thought the examples that they used for companies was pretty cool, very relevant, and it shows what can be done, and who hasn't gone to a movie and felt, wow, that's cool. So thank you.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to move us into breakout groups unless anybody has something they really want to say right now. So I'm just flipping through, and I don't see any hands. Keep it up if you have it up. All right. So we're going to break up into breakout groups. And so here's the ground rules for the breakout groups, but also as we move through tonight. So we're here tonight because everybody's point of view is valid, and hopefully we're going to develop skills to be able to get into the habit of that's a natural assumption. And that's the only assumption we're going to make. So we're going to listen to learn and not to respond. So why is this person saying this? How are they feeling? If you read that whole difficult conversation story, they'll tell you that there's 3 important stories in every conversation. And those are to find out the what of the other person, so really why they're saying that, but also to feel your own feelings and why you're reacting, and then how secure you are in the identity of both. And so that's really the listening to learn, because how many of us, I'm the first to raise my hand, especially with my husband or my kids, if they're arguing with me and I'm not listening very well because I'm trying to think of all the reasons why they should have come in for curfew, or why they need to, not have the sound on in their social media while I'm trying to watch a show or something like that. So it's that constant, try to get rid of that constant thinking of your own position, because it's obvious to the other person when you're not focused on them. And it's also impeding the ability to learn the what and to understand and think about, have that time to think about why you react the way you do. So we're not going to interrupt each other as we go through. And if you can paraphrase what you're hearing, not parrot it back, but really try to think about what they're saying and paraphrase it and frame it back. If you find yourself saying in these groups or in our larger group, I understand that, or I apologize, but if you say that but, then it doesn't feel to the listener that that's really an authentic understanding or apology. It feels like you're just saying that so that you can talk. Does that make sense? So try to avoid saying that but. That's really hard. So I'm gonna stop sharing my desktop for this, so I can go back to the Zoom meeting and get into breakout groups. So as I stop sharing, and so the audio for the public participants, we are going to move into breakout groups right now. And for Laura and Dan, who is going to facilitate each of the breakout groups, it might take a moment for me to add them into a group, just so those of you who are in the group know your facilitator will be coming. And we'll be spending, I don't know, let's say the questions that we're going to talk about is we're going to take that article that is the one that I sent that's about the collaboration, the Pixar one. And so the things to think about and talk about in your group are what elements are the key part of collaboration from your perspective when you read the article, and what do you think Willmar's missing in your group discussions and in your communications with each other and with staff and in fulfilling your duties and your role. So those are the 2 things I want you to think about. We'll spend about, let's say, 10 minutes, and we'll come back at 6:40. So we're going to break out into those rooms.